shares in General Electric are up over 6% in the session so far. That follows an 11% drop on Thursday. GE was once America's most valuable company. Now it's fending off a highly detailed accusation that it's perpetrating one of the biggest frauds in American history. In a statement, the company said the claims made by Mr. Markopolos are meritless. The company has never met, spoken to, or had contact with him, and we are extremely disappointed that an individual with no direct knowledge of GE would choose to make such serious and unsubstantiated claims. After that huge share price drop on Thursday, GE CEO Larry Culp bought almost $2 million worth of stock, while the chair of the audit committee said, "This is not the GE that I know." Joining me is Harry Markopolos, the man behind those allegations. He's a certified fraud examiner and best known as the Madoff whistleblower. Fantastic to have you on the show.
It's great to be here.
You have credibility where spotting anomalies, significant size fraud is concerned, and yet the share price is bouncing. I make that around $5 billion worth of loss wiped in the last 24 hours. It's a lot less than $38 billion. What do you make of what we're seeing already?
I look at the long term, and we'll see how solvent they are at year end and see if they make it into 2020.
Is that how swiftly you think this could unravel?
WorldCom and Enron, they ended about 4 months after the frauds were publicized, so we'll see how long GE has.
I mean, we've been seeing them make write-offs, the power business, reserves against the insurance business, which is at the heart of what you're saying is the problem here, ultimately. Why now? Why choose to investigate now?
We were doing another case last year against a long-term care insurance company, and then we spotted all the losses from these insurance companies landing on GE's books. So we switched focus to GE because the fraud was so much bigger here.
So you're saying that the $15 billion that they've set aside, saying, look, people are living longer, it's tough to get high interest rates to set against what we're seeing in this business, is simply not enough.
Correct. They took $15 billion. They need to take $29 billion more.
I mean, that's a shockingly huge number. And to be fair to GE, they've said, look, in a worst case scenario in their annual filing, they said we could have to write down another $12 billion. But it's still, you know, significantly short of what you're saying.
They've been nothing but negative surprises for years. $22 billion for Alstom in November, $15 billion in January 2018 on long-term care, $773 million this quarter for Energy Grid. They have big surprises. They're always negative. They should have been taking them all along in smaller chunks. They wait till the last minute, and they hide things from the market.
They're not going to have to do this straight away, though. Even if we're somewhere between $0 and $28 billion, and I admit that's a huge arc here, the regulators would give them a number of years, surely, particularly where the accounting changes, because $10 billion worth of this, approximately, is due to accounting changes. That, at least, would they'd be given time to adjust for that.
First quarter of 2021, they need to take a $10.5 billion gap write-down. It's a non-cash charge, however.
It's accounting, yeah.
Right, but an $18.5 billion immediate cash charge whenever the Kansas Insurance Department requested. They had a $15 billion write-down in January 2018, but they had no cash to pay it, so they had to spread it out over 7 years. And that's the problem with GE. They're cash poor. They say they have over almost $17 billion in cash. The problem is their current liabilities are $60 billion, so the cash is nowhere near enough.
I mean, on page 2 of your report, you say that only 14% of GE's long-term care claims have come in. But don't the reserves that they've got against it account for 86% of the claims to come?
There's 86% more about to be filed in the years to come. So 14% of the claims led to a $15 billion write-down. What are the 86% remaining? What are they going to do to GE's balance sheet? That's the question. Prudential is taking proper reserves. Prudential is reserved much more deeply than GE. GE, just to catch up to Prudential, would take $9.5 billion. So who's doing it right, Prudential or GE? GE's losses last year in long-term care were 527% loss ratio. Prudential made money. Their loss ratio was only 81%. So they made a ton of money, and GE's losing a ton.
So you're basically saying, look, this is not rocket science. We are literally just comparing to others that operate similar businesses in the industry. This is what they're doing, and GE simply isn't.
GE says they want to be number 1 and number 2 in every industry. Well, they are last year. They certainly were in long-term care for losses. Their ERAC insurance unit, 527%. Their Union Fidelity unit, 280%. By comparison, Unum was at 90%, Prudential at 81%.
Let's move on and talk about Baker Hughes, because this is one where some analysts who cover this very closely have said, look, they have said once their stake in Baker Hughes gets below 50%, they'll make a write-down. $7.4 billion is what they're saying at this stage. So they do provide greater guidance on what's going on, and they have been clear about this. Admittedly, the share price for Baker Hughes has dropped significantly, so likelihood the write-down will have to be bigger, but they're not being as unclear as you're accusing of them in this part of the business, arguably.
They were aggressive. They should have taken a $9.1 billion mark-to-market loss, non-cash, in the 2018 year-end financial statements. They did not. They're going to move that loss into this year, and they're going to take in cash from Baker Hughes. That's fair. They did not follow the accounting rules, though. The GAAP rules, 50.4% is their share ownership, but they don't control or benefit from Baker Hughes cash flows. And so under the variable interest accounting rules, they should have not consolidated it last year, and they should have marked it to market because it was an asset available for sale.
So you're saying, fine, even if they are now being transparent, it's massaging, it's ugly accounting, and this is basically what you're saying. And this is what many analysts have been saying, that it lacks transparency, it's not clean.
Their books are very unreadable. They keep changing their accounting formats. They don't put in expenses. They don't tell you a lot of information. You're left guessing. And you should never have to guess with a company that size that's disappointed so negatively for so often. What
are regulators saying to you? Because arguably, if you are right, then this is huge negligence, similar to Enron by auditors, by the regulators here. How has this been allowed to go on if what you're saying is right, is true? I can't comment on our discussions with the regulators or law enforcement, but they're going to be ongoing, I'm sure. So they are still looking at it. I mean, they've been looking at it since we saw the write-down in the power business. Yes, the SEC is probing GE civilly, and then you have the Department of Justice probing them criminally. So they do have some accounting issues. Talk to me about what you gain by doing this, because the obvious criticism here is that you handed this information over to a hedge fund. Can you tell us which hedge fund? I can't do that. They wanted confidentiality. It's a U.S.-based East Coast hedge fund, a very reputable company, not normally known for shorting, actually. They're paying a percentage of the net trading profits for early access to my report, and I have two other means of payments. One is the SEC Whistleblower program, and the other is the Department of Justice FOREA Whistleblower program. Where did they go short? Can you tell me that? What level did they go short? They never told us what they're trading. I'm assuming it's shares, but they don't tell me what or when. I just do the report. I'm a fraud examiner. I do not trade on Wall Street any longer. I left that business 15 years ago. But you're arguably trading this because you benefit. You're taking a cut of the winnings here. So indirectly, I have tangential benefit, correct. Are they still short in whatever they're doing? So, because a lot of people will look at this and say, you came out, you made this big splash, you accused them of fraud, you have credibility in spotting these things. This hedge fund now could have benefited if they were short the shares of an 11% drop yesterday, taken profit, and they walk away. I look at this as a months-long endeavor, and we'll see how long GE lasts. If they make it into 2020, that'd be great for them. We'll see. Who would you want to see prosecuted in this case? Because you're arguing that this goes right back to Jack Welch. This was a consistent scam, effectively, to mismanage the books and to effectively hide the underlying performance of the business from investors. GE has been cooking books for many decades. Jack Welch acknowledges that in his autobiography. I give you the page reference. Yes. I give you the direct quote. And that has continued to this day. As far as prosecutions, the statute of limitations is 6 years. Anybody who signed false financials or helped prepare false financials would presumably be brought to justice. We will see. How long does it take? You mentioned by 2020. But right now, investors are giving them the benefit of the doubt. A whole host of, I've got a list of them of people that have come forward and said, look, we believe in GE, we believe what they're saying. The CEO bought 2 million shares. What do you think of that? If people want to drink the Kool-Aid, great. If the CEO wants to buy into an accounting fraud, great. Let them. Everybody gets to vote in the capital markets. I'm looking at this long term. If they make it to 2020, then can they make it through 2021? They're one recession away from Chapter 11. That's how close you think this is? Their balance sheet is in tatters. Their current liabilities are $60 billion. Their current assets are $40 billion. Is that why you're comparing it to Enron? I mean, you said it's worse than Enron and WorldCom put together simply because you're looking at the sheer scale of the losses here versus the market cap of the company.
Yes, and if you take a look, they're cash flow negative. How long can you burn cash? And lower interest rates actually kill them. It hurts their investments on their long-term care reserves, and it also hurts them on their pension liabilities. Their pension liabilities have increased so much with long-term rates so low, less than 2%, their pension liabilities have ballooned from $27 billion to who knows what they are today.
Could you have made a mistake? Because to your point, this is sensitive to a market environment. We're talking about such huge numbers here. It is 174 pages. Could you have made a mistake?
Yes, we are probably too low in our loss estimates, but we're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
So this is you being conservative on loss estimates?
Yes.
And to those that say you're a profiteer, you're a market manipulator, what's your response?
I'm not. I'm a fraud examiner. I'm a seeker of the truth. If I see accounting fraud, I go after it.
Will you come clean about the hedge fund, the name of the hedge fund at some point, or do they have to do that?
They would have to do that. I would certainly hope that they would, but it's up to them.
But you think the share price effectively is going to go to zero? You think this is a broken company that's going to go bankrupt?
They have minus $20 billion in working capital. It's hard to see them surviving that. Their cash flow is negative this year. If we enter a recession, they're done.
Harry, no doubt we'll talk to you again about this. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Harry Markopolos.